The US national debt is $36 trillion, and it will grow by another trillion every 90 days after you watch this video, maybe even faster. But what if Bitcoin could secretly be the solution to solving this problem? Let's mine deep. The concept? It's simple. Just as the US once held massive reserves of gold to protect and anchor the value of its currency, what if we held Bitcoin to bolster the nation's economic security? Here's how it could work. The US government would purchase and hold Bitcoin in reserve, similar to how gold reserves were once used to back the dollar, before Nixon temporarily removed us from the gold standard.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
The US government wouldn't just buy Bitcoin to sell it later for profit. Instead, you'd allocate a percentage of tax income generated from GDP as a nationwide digital Fort Knox-style savings account in a hard asset. By holding Bitcoin, the US government would have its own inflation and debasement hedge, ensuring that its wealth isn't eroded over time by endless money printing. That's its own issue that might take a few more centuries to solve. Bitcoin, with its fixed supply of 21 million, could act as a hard reserve asset in a way that's more resilient than fiat currency. But the strategy doesn't stop at simply holding Bitcoin. The US could also invest in Bitcoin mining infrastructure, much like it already invests in energy infrastructure. Imagine this. As the US builds new nuclear power plants or upgrades its energy grid through public-private partnerships, those plants could use any excess energy to mine Bitcoin. The government could then receive Bitcoin from these operations, almost like a dividend, adding to the strategic reserve without needing to purchase it outright. Mining Bitcoin with unused or excess energy can turn wasted resources into a valuable hard asset. And this isn't some wild fringe idea. Senator Lummis, a longtime advocate of Bitcoin, sees it as the perfect tool to solve issues like inflation and the debt crisis. She believes Bitcoin could anchor the national economy, allowing the government to reduce its reliance on fiat currency and massive borrowing. And you can hear her talk about it in a minute, so just stick with me. Some countries are already experimenting with Bitcoin reserves today. For example, the small Himalayan kingdom of Bhutan recently revealed that they've been mining Bitcoin in secret with their excess hydroelectric energy, amassing an amount worth nearly 1/3 of their GDP.
With $780 million worth of Bitcoin, which is nearly a third of its GDP, Bhutan has become the fourth largest government holder of Bitcoin.
Similarly, El Salvador has been purchasing 1 Bitcoin every single day, regardless of the Bitcoin price. So why should you care? The US national debt isn't just a government problem, it's your problem. The interest on that debt is swallowing almost 20% of annual budget payments. That's money that could have gone towards healthcare, education, infrastructure. It's being used to just pay off interest. Meanwhile, productivity and GDP aren't keeping up with the speed of currency debasement. The government keeps printing money, which makes everything more expensive while wages stay stagnant. What the US needs is an edge, something that can break this vicious cycle. That edge is Bitcoin. By implementing a Bitcoin strategic reserve, the US could finally anchor its financial system in something that can't be manipulated or printed out of thin air. Don't miss Cynthia Lummis Backstage.
You know, the people I talk to, and I myself am extremely concerned about the fact that the United States has an almost $35 trillion national debt. And it's going to be important that we have hard assets to back our national debt. Now, earlier today, you heard Michael Saylor on stage mention that if we had $1 million of Bitcoin, held them for a few years, that we literally could cut the national debt in half.
Now I have to ask, why is Bitcoin so important to you? You're one of the few that truly grasp that concept.
Well, I was raised to understand what a store of value is. I was raised in a state where we have oil and gas and coal. We can produce it and use it, but when it's in the ground, it is stored in a way that continues to add value and make it accessible to us. That's also true with Bitcoin. When we hold Bitcoin, it is growing in value, unlike the US dollar, which is by design declining in value. It's being debased because we decided that we're going to have 2% inflation. And when you do that over a period of time, it devalues the dollar. That doesn't happen with Bitcoin. Bitcoin has, over the last 4 years, grown about 55% every year on average. And so this is an asset that can be a store of value if you hold it, and also a means of exchange if you need to access it. So it's absolute freedom money. It doesn't have to be custodied. It doesn't belong to any one specific person or a board of directors. This is something that allows the individual to match their own dreams with an asset that can help take them there.
How will Bitcoin help the United States of America?
Well, it definitely has the qualities to be for the United States what it can be for and is for individuals. It can be a store of value to back the US dollar. So as the dollar declines in value, Bitcoin will grow in value. And as we overspend and overprint the US dollar and get ourselves in deep trouble, Bitcoin can be there to back it up and help bail us out. So even for the United States itself, Bitcoin is freedom money.
How would Bitcoin mining impact the economy and the environment?
Well, the mining itself can actually help be a base load balancer for energy. So if a community has a ramped up need for energy, Bitcoin can be ramped down and vice versa. So it creates a way to balance base load, and so power can be delivered more efficiently and more cost effectively. Furthermore, we can hook it up to oil wells, and so we're not losing the vented gas. That vented gas can be used to mine Bitcoin, and that's happening in my state of Wyoming even as we speak. This is going to be an asset that is very effective in balancing the efficiency of our energy. I really believe that Elizabeth Warren's problem with Bitcoin is that she thinks government has the answers and that government should have control. And the thought of letting go of control and letting people control their own wealth, their own money, their own freedom is just not part of her core values. She's a person who genuinely believes in government. I don't believe in government. I believe in the people telling government what to do, not the other way around. So because our core values are so different, I don't know that she'll ever grasp the notion of individual freedom the way that Bitcoin can provide it to people.